How's it going, guys? Wow, can't go to sleep anymore these days. Uh, Last night, around 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, the U.S., along with the DEA, conducted a raid, as you'll see here, um, of Caracas in Venezuela. Um, Completely successful raid. They captured Nicolas Maduro, and his wife safely. So let's watch the interview Trump did right after around 11 o'clock this morning, and then we're going to start getting into some of what the backlash might be about this because I've heard it all. We're going to get into the War Powers Act of '73. We're going to get into Article 2 of the Constitution because apparently some people need a refresher on what exactly the president can do. We're going to talk about what constitutes a war, what constitutes declaring war, what is considered an act of war, and how all of that really in this situation is irrelevant because this isn't that. This is a arrest warrant. So let's get to what Trump said earlier today, and then I'll pause it for comments.
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff. We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
To put that in perspective, I think reports on the ground were that citizens were hearing a bunch of gunfire and a bunch of rumbling for about 45 minutes, and everything was over. I was live last night with a friend of mine, and literally we got the news that it had happened, and about 10 minutes later we had a picture of Maduro in custody. So when he says it was quick, it was strategic, it was on point and perfect, I don't know how much better it can get.
And if you think about it, there's some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night.
So that's he kind of glosses over that, but that's very important. United States law enforcement conducted this raid of Maduro's house. I akin this to no different than any drug smuggler in the U.S. getting their door kicked in by the SWAT team.
It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark.
A certain
It was deadly.
expertise.
But captured along with his wife Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many.
That's actually really important. Not a single American casualty in this entire raid of I think they said there was over 100 aircraft in the air, soldiers on the ground, as well as law enforcement. No one was hurt. This is going even better than the raid to kill Osama bin Laden. We lost a whole helicopter in that raid. Nothing. Over and done with in 45 minutes.
Many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far.
There is.
With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So
I think that's pretty smart on behalf of the president, on behalf of U.S. foreign policy. Don't just go and topple a dictator, right? Don't just go and arrest him. Oversee the transition of power so that they can't just hold another fake election that gets rigged by the military or rigged by whoever decides that they want to seize power. Don't leave a power vacuum. Install our interests in the hemisphere.
we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows,
I think it was kind of funny. So you can see he's reading from a script, and he's like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. We're gonna run it. We got him. We're gonna run it. It's like when he was asked a couple of weeks ago, "Are you gonna declare war on Venezuela?" No, I think we're just gonna kill him. I love how he just transitions.
the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
So I wanna add something to what he just said. When Maduro seized power, um, there were U.S. oil companies in the area operating, um, legally. They had purchased oil leases and whatnot, and purchased land and owned the rights to those resources. And under the guise of socialism and equality for all and wealth for all, Maduro seized those. Said, "Nope, you don't own those anymore. We own those." Kicked them out. Said, "We run this now." And none of any of that prosperity went to see his people. None of any of that was used for the greater good like it was claimed to be used for. It was just a corrupt dictator seizing the means of production and seizing assets from the people. Um, he didn't share, so to say. Socialists love to say we're just doing this for everybody, but this is what it leads to. It leads to Venezuela.
And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful.
Oh man, if you guys remember, I think it was a week and a half ago, the defense minister or whatever of Venezuela basically was saying that he was arming the people, and the U.S. incursion was not going to be allowed, and imperialism this and imperialism that. How are you going to sit back with a straight face and act like you're going to do something, and then let your country be overrun in 45 minutes?
Successful. We probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil.
Yep.
Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to ultimately New York, and then a decision will be made. assume between New York and Miami or Florida. But we
I
have
think they just landed in New York City.
people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over, in particular, the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang, Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing. And we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster. But it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it.
Just to give a little bit of context for anybody that's forgotten, because I know America has a very, very short memory. When we used the National Guard in Chicago, they were attacked. And when the police were called so that force wasn't used against the attackers, the police department, in all of their glory, gave a stand down order to officers en route to the call, basically leaving them, to fend for it themselves. Why? Because the city of Chicago does not assist law enforcement in ICE activity. So you don't uphold the rule of law. Got it. Just put that in perspective for people.
And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people. And now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst. They say the worst. Americans like
Pretty bad.
12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary. What happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most.
I just want to say, you know, we're kind of moving past everything he's saying, and think of a time 20, 30, 40 years ago. You heard about this kind of stuff happening in Mexico, in South America, in all of these corrupt countries. You didn't hear about this happening in America. You might have heard of, you know, a gang shooting or, you know, violent crime here and there. You didn't hear about people getting their fingers cut off. You didn't hear about people being executed or horrible things happening at the hands of these monsters. That was a, oh wow, that happens over there. That's crazy. Now, because of the policies that we have let into our country, and because of the people that we've let into our country, because of the dictators that we've allowed to stand in other countries that foster this kind of thing, it's happening in our homeland. Think about that. Think about, I mean, even when I was growing up, I'm not that old. I didn't hear about stuff like this. This has been in the last 10 years, really, the last 5-10 years that this has been happening a lot.
Violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States.
About 200,000 Venezuelan, quote unquote, refugees fled from Venezuela to the United States and were let in. It was a crisis. It was a humanitarian crisis, is what it was, and they were all let in. Why were they let in, or why did they come in the beginning? Because they knew they were going to be let in under an open border.
No longer, and we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it.
Yep.
And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force.
Yep.
This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had
So the amount of things that this president has done over the last year, or not even the year. I guess we're coming up on 1 year, 11 months and some change. He has ended a war between Israel and Iran. He's ended countless other wars, some that have long histories. He has brought us back from the brink of financial collapse, along with, he has now deposed a dictator in 45 minutes. I don't know how this guy manages his time. I damn sure couldn't do it like this. And I find myself every time, a decision that Trump's about to make is in the news, it's being criticized from every angle possible. And when he's successful and proves everybody that's criticizing him wrong, all you get from the left is, oh, but he didn't do it right. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He didn't do this. Orange man bad. Orange man bad. I heard several people today speaking on the constitutionality of Trump declaring war on Venezuela. Trump did not declare war on Venezuela. He didn't. He conducted a raid on a drug trafficker, on a narco terrorist, on a human trafficker, on, a gun runner, and an illegitimate president that the United States does not recognize. Remember that point. The United States and other countries, not just the United States, did not recognize Maduro as a leader of Venezuela. There's a lady in exile, I think, in Norway right now that is believed to be the rightful president of Venezuela. And so all of those things, he tried negotiating with them, which I guess you have to do that, right? But he stonewalled, he played games, he kind of moved the goalposts around and tried to play with America. I guess he didn't learn from Iran. And he was arrested. That is what happened. I can show you here. Where is it at? There we go. Share this. This is an offer, a bounty offer from the Department of State for Nicolas Maduro for, what was it? $50 million. The highest reward in American history was offered for this guy. This was updated on August 7th, 2025. So it hasn't been ripped down as captured yet. But let's see why this gentleman was wanted by the United States government and under whose authority is he wanted. So in March 2020, Maduro was charged in the Southern District of New York for narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. After initially offering a reward of up to $15 million for information, the Department of State on January 10th increased the reward to $25 million. And August 7th, it went up to $50 million. And this is supposed to be a president. You know, I use that term loosely because he's not a president. A president. And that's what this guy is doing. So, in order for there to be a reward like this, especially this big, there must be an arrest warrant. And to have an arrest warrant, you need what? You need a judge. So this was handled by Congress because Congress sets laws, right? And the judicial branch enforces laws. So the judicial branch decided they're going to put a warrant out for somebody who broke Congress's laws, and the president, using his co-equal branch of government, decided that he was going to uphold his oath to the Constitution to uphold the law and execute the wishes of the judicial branch. Remember, the court system has no teeth. You know, a judge can sit and talk to you all day long, but if you don't have a sheriff or, you know, in this case, a president to execute, that's why it's called the executive branch, to execute the laws and those orders, then you don't really have laws. You know, a law without consequence is not a law. So they put out a warrant for him. Obviously, you know, the U.S. went and captured him, so no one's going to get the money, unfortunately. But this has been talked about as an act of war. This has been talked about, you know, oh, Trump's declaring war. He hasn't declared war on anybody. You know, Article 2 of the Constitution, which I'll switch to right now, the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army, Navy of the United States and the militia. So what does that mean? That basically the president at any time can direct the military to execute on his laws and his orders. Completely constitutional, especially because it was a judge that signed the order. So no one would be having this conversation about laws and, you know, war and all that fun stuff if, you know, Joe Schmo down the street got their door kicked in for trafficking drugs, right? You would say, oh, he got arrested. Not, you just declared war on that neighborhood. It's preposterous. It makes no sense. You know, I'd argue that people on the left that are making these arguments understand that it makes no sense. It's just more Trump derangement syndrome, and they want anything they can do, you know, desperately to grasp on to the idea that he doesn't know what he's doing or he's a bad person. But it doesn't fly. I want to switch to this video of a creator that I saw that he basically summed it all up. So I'll put it on here now.
Hours of the morning, the U.S. conducted strikes in Venezuela, and they were able to arrest the illegitimate president, Maduro. Let's just say that homeboy had a real rude awakening this morning, and he's not having the best new year so far. This entire operation took 3 hours, and the reports have come out saying there was not a single American casualty, and in fact, no Americans were even wounded in this.
Nope.
Now, we did bomb them, but it's important to keep in mind that
Okay, maybe bombing somebody might be considered an act of war, but it's just force proportional to make the arrest.
this was not a declaration of war. This was an international arrest that was conducted by the DEA and Delta Force. And even though Maduro was a brutal narco-terrorist with a $50 million bounty on his head for his arrest, not everybody in the United States is happy about us doing this. In fact, most of the liberals are absolutely up their own asses about it. You know who's really happy about this and really grateful that we did this?
Yeah, come celebrate with us. We love everybody because you, America, has loved us so much. So much. Thank you, America.
The people of Venezuela are
Because
incredibly
fuck
happy
you, that's
about
why.
this. And in fact, they've been partying in the streets en masse ever since this happened. For these people, this means freedom, and this means hope that their country is finally going to get better. Now, if America could get a little bit of that sweet action, I'm sure we'd all be celebrating too. But what do y'all think? Let me know down in.
Yeah. So, I mean, that pretty much sums up my my opinion on this. I was saying this probably 3 o'clock in the morning when I woke up and I heard this news. I was like, oh, so they arrested him, and I had no fathom, like couldn't fathom that people would argue against this. I think Zoran Mamdani came out as the mayor of New York City, the newly elected mayor of New York City, decided that he was going to call the president of the United States to express his disdain or dissatisfaction in regime change. I guess, when you're not from our country, you don't understand our country that much. But let's go to, I think this is PBS that decided that they were going to cover it.
Reporter Mary Trini Mina in Venezuela's capital, Caracas. Thank you so much for joining us. We are speaking a few hours before our show airs. It's been an extraordinary day in Venezuela today. What has it been like on the ground?
Well, Venezuelans woke up hearing loud sounds rumbling across the city. It was complex situations from early hours. It began at 1:50 local time. It lasted for about 45 minutes. I personally heard planes, airplanes, and these detonations that kept happening for about 45 minutes. It was a difficult situation, very complex, with a lack of information coming from the government of Nicolás Maduro. Later on, they released a statement saying that this was an aggression perpetrated by the U.S. And according to the Venezuelan government, the sole purpose of this kinetic strike was to gain control of Venezuelan oil resources. This ended up with the destruction of the leader of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and also his wife, Cilia Flores. Here in Caracas, there's been moments of quiet. Most people have decided to remain at home, considering today's event. And also, some people have decided to go to the streets, mostly the supporters of Nicolás Maduro. We need to remember that the Maduro government were bracing for a situation like this for many months now. And
So we just saw the video of them dancing in the street and saying, "Thank you, America." And this lady, in all of her wisdom, has decided that this was primarily for Venezuelan oil. We really couldn't care less about oil. We have plenty of oil. We have more now. We do have more oil now. I think the estimate was like we have $34 trillion or $17 trillion worth of oil reserves that we now control, which is great. Not really the point of any of this. Let's go to, where should we go? Oh, actually, let's go to Fox News because Maduro has just landed.
This after the U.S. successfully carried out a large-scale military operation in Venezuela, striking multiple targets and capturing Maduro along with his wife, Celia Flores.
At my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. The men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night.
Mm-hmm.
And President Trump posted this photo of Maduro aboard the USS Iwo Jima on his way to New York.
Oh man, they black-bagged him.
Criminal charges for his alleged involvement in narco-terrorism. Madeline Rivera is live at the White House with the latest. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Tommy. Some stunning images coming out of New York right now where Maduro and his wife have landed in New York after being transported on the USS Iwo Jima. The president conveying today as being a last-ditch operation to get Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro out of power after several attempts have failed. A superseding indictment from the Southern District of New York alleges Maduro sits atop a corrupt, illegitimate government that for decades has leveraged government power to protect and promote illegal activity, including drug trafficking. But the President Trump, indicates there's an interest in the country's oil too, forecasting a future in which he sees oil companies rebuilding the country's oil infrastructure.
That we originally built in the first place, mind you. All of everything that's over there is ours. Anyway, it was stolen after it was purchased. So let's just put this in perspective. I go to you and I buy something from you. You give it to me. And then your friend or, your parents come along and decide that they're going to take it back so that they can give it to your sister. That's what happened here.
Today, there are growing questions about what comes next. The president says they'll be working to designate people to run the country in the coming days, a team that could include Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. The president appearing to rule out the possibility of opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado taking over.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I thought that was kind of the U.S.'s plan was to install her. That's news to me. I believe she was considered to be the rightful winner of the election that Maduro rigged. So could be interesting. I think she should at least run or be able to run, but sounds like they don't have that plan.
He doesn't have the respect.
The president watched the Operation Absolute Resolve unfold in real time. It involved 150 aircraft and took months of planning and coordination.
Last night, the weather broke just enough.
Love Raising Cane.
That only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission.
The president says they did not notify Congress before this operation took place. In part, he says because of Congress's ability to leak, the Trump administration is expected to brief House
In other words, you can't be trusted.
The Kennedy Center regarding the operation. Tommy, back to you.
And I'd like to point out, according to the War Powers Act, which I'll bring up for you right now. Okay, the War Powers Act of 1973. The War Powers Resolution of 1973, also known as the War Powers Act, is a congressional resolution designed to limit the U.S. president's ability to initiate or escalate military actions abroad. As part of our system of government checks and balances, the law aims to check the executive branch's power when committing U.S. military forces to armed conflict without the consent of the U.S. Congress. It stipulates the president must notify Congress within 48 hours of military action and prohibits armed forces from remaining for more than 60 days. So, that part right there. Donald Trump has notified Congress within 48 hours, and last time I checked, there's no military in Venezuela right now. So he has followed the War Powers Act, and there's not much more to go into that. Now, you can decide that you want to interpret the War Powers Act differently than the United States Supreme Court and every JAG officer that was involved in this mission and every piece of White House counsel. But I'm sorry, your cries are going to go unheard because this was completely legal. I would not even go as far as to call this an act of war, because this was an arrest of a fugitive wanted by the United States government for crimes committed against the United States. Not to mention all the other things he's done to his people, but he is wanted for crimes in the United States, and an arrest warrant was served against him. And I'm speculating here, but I'm willing to bet the vice president that has now just taken power was probably the foreign official that turned Maduro over. Because, if they had been, working with Maduro, they would have been arrested as well. But it sounds like, from what I can understand, that they were working with the United States government, which also makes this not a unjustified incursion or an invasion, have you call it, because they had the support of the foreign government. This is my speculation, right? So any way you slice this is completely legal. It is a good thing for the people of Venezuela. It is a good thing for the American people. And I mean, the greedy side of me, it's really good for gas prices. We're not going to have some tyrannical dictator deciding, what our gas prices are going to be anymore. This is really good for the balance of power around the world and around the hemisphere. It shows that Iran and China cannot just set up shop and create what would be a modern day Cuban Missile Crisis. It shows that if you act corrupt, the United States is going to come after you. So there's a little bit of, people respecting the rule of law and the rule of nature in, at least this hemisphere, if not the world. Other countries are taking note. You don't get to just screw around. We can come in 45 minutes or less. I've waited longer for a pizza to arrive than they took a dictator out. That's why we don't have free healthcare, people, because we have the greatest military in the world that, along with U.S. law enforcement, can take somebody out in 45 minutes. Safely. He's not dead either. He's blindfolded, so he might be a little disoriented, but he's completely safe. He's going to face justice in our justice system, which is going to afford him every right of any other American citizen. He's going to get the rights of an American citizen, mind you, in a United States court to answer for the crimes and the thousands of Americans his gangs have killed. Not to mention the trillions of dollars of oil that he stole from us. So, I mean, he's not answering to that crime, but he is answering for narco-terrorism, gun running, smuggling cocaine, possession of machine guns, all those fun things. And he's going to be tried in an American court, which is probably one of the most fair courts in the world. So I don't have I don't have a whole lot of issue with this. I'm a very much America first person. I believe we should do what's in our best interest, and in this case, I believe this is in our best interest. For everybody that wants to complain about, this is supposed to be the no new wars president. I don't see a war going on that the U.S. is involved in. I think he's been pretty consistent about that. Every time he's, flirted with the idea of using the military, I've gotten nervous because it's very easy to fall into that trap. But Trump is playing 3D chess when he does things. Every time I feel something coming on, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm worried about it. It blows my mind the way he's able to pull things off, which tells me, this is kind of what infuriates me about other presidents that I've lived under. If they wanted to, they could. If they wanted peace, if they wanted America to be supreme and to be as great as it could be, they would do these things. And they chose not to, which, ultimately hurt us. The drug epidemic is wild. I work in EMS. I can't tell you how many people just in my state alone. I want to say a good 30% of my patients are addicted to drugs, probably coming from Venezuela. Venezuela doesn't produce the vast majority of drugs, and especially hard drugs that kill people, but they darn sure smuggle a lot of them. They darn sure move a lot of them across the waters. So I think this is a net good. If anybody disagrees with me, you're more than welcome to throw it into the comments. But I think if you make any argument other than maybe a legal argument, maybe there's some legal misunderstanding, I'd advise you to go pick up a law textbook and just read the different pages that I've sent you. If there's any other argument other than maybe this was illegal, you're being disingenuous. You're being outright hateful, and you should get your head checked out. But on that note, I'm gonna check off here. I hope you guys have a good day, and see you next time.